on harsher 5 games, 6 games, 7 games? Did you have that freedom? And did you feel like you didn't want to go in that direction because you took care of discipline on the front end, the things that you can't talk about?
Yeah, I think you tie in, the adding a game was a decision based on what was already a school rule, you know, I guess, what would I say, student athlete?
Student athlete.
Yeah, I'm not sure on all the terms. Could I do more? There's punishment, there's discipline. And I keep going back to that, and that's the way it's been for a long time. And I'm not trying to compare myself to others and what they do and those type of things, but you could always, always do more, and you could always do less. And you follow what the mandates are, what the student athlete handbook says, and then you make your choice from there. You can't do any less. And I don't think I'd ever want to even consider it, but chose to do more. And in the Emmett case, it was certainly there's a punishment, there's a discipline, and there's the fact that he's living with something that I had to see that face the other night too, and that doesn't even remotely condone what he did. But those are the steps, and I confer, and I certainly Fred really leaves it in the coach's hands, and I give it to him, and I've listened to him in the past, and I don't think he's ever looked at me and said, you know what, you're not doing enough, and I hope he never has to say that. But at the same time, he leaves it up to the coaches, and I decided to do more than what the student athlete situation said.
Greg?
So you tacked on a game, it sounds like. You mentioned you want to do what you're doing, you want to do it sterner. Editorialize, they don't seem to be getting the message. Do you think your version of sterner is, do you see it working?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Do I see it working the other night? Absolutely not. But I don't have a better answer for it other than we just continue to, when I say sterner, that doesn't mean we're changing what we're doing. So, I'm not sure, am I getting your question? I'm not sure I'm answering it correctly. I'm not sure I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just asking you if you think, you tacked on a game, I'm just asking if you think that's really, is that window dressing so you can say you did more, or are you actually trying to change the culture? Because you've had 6 kids, you know what you've had.
We're working pretty hard at the culture, absolutely. But no, your word is window dressing, and that's fine. That's not a word that I would use, and that's certainly not anything that I see when we look at discipline or punishment. Good, Rich.
Tom, can you clarify or explain any further what Devin's injuries are and what he's dealing with right now?
I leave that to the doctors. I tried to give an update of where he's at right now, but I certainly don't want to start. We probably should get an update out here pretty quick from Dr. Rink again. So we'll do that.
Pete?
Yeah, Tom, just my brain dead on the question.
We can come back to you.
Okay, come
Good.
on.
Good.
You mentioned feeling the responsibility to
Sure.
the parents of all these young people. Just how do you envision your role as a head coach in all the things that come along with a student athlete that's not out there on the court?
Well, I think when you build the relationships with them that you do in recruiting, and I think when you go over the period of time with them, I think you not only build a relationship with the player, but you certainly with their families, and it's part of it. And I think as certainly when you grow in your own world as a parent, you feel it that much more, especially when they get to that age. It's just part of it. So you try to give them the good, you try to give them the bad, you try to keep them involved in the situation, you try to get them to talk to them at times, and at the same time they have to trust you that you're doing the right thing, for them, or they wouldn't be here. And they wouldn't let them come. So that's the bottom line with that. I think as much as anything as we try to really work in that way.
Mike Merritt?
Tom, as you try and change the culture, you talk about sterner, being sterner, and that sort of thing. How do you try and do that moving forward? Is it the message? Is it recruiting different kinds of guys?
When I say sterner, let me clarify sterner, because maybe I didn't do a very good job of that. I don't curse anymore, That ended a few years back. I don't have to. It's not about how much anger you bring them, you have to, sterner sometimes may mean, okay, we've got to take more away, all right? We've got to bring more to this that gets their attention. See, sterners are, okay, how do we get the attention? And how do we get it again and again and again? And that's what it is. Does it mean I have to yell louder? No, I'm not big on grandstanding that part of it either, okay? Everybody has, people can define, they have to do this, they have to do that, it has to be this, okay? We've had a lot of people come through the program in 16 years as a head coach that have dealt with stern, okay? And they've ended up pretty good, and bottom line. But I think you just have to continue to get their attention any way possible. And I think you keep, the culture here, you keep building it. I mean, because constantly, as anybody can attest to, from before, it can go quick. So you have to work at it extremely hard. All right, and it can go on the court, it can go in the locker room, it can go off the court, it can go so many different ways. Culture is a moving target. All right, it's not a definition. It's not a, hey, this is what it looks like everywhere. It's a moving target, and you've got to continue to build on that constantly, and that's what we're trying to do.
Mike?
You mentioned the other night that you were coming from walk-on tryouts.
Mm-hmm.
Did you expect to add anybody?
Well, we had scheduled that for before, and I went into it with an open mind, and I still do. So we haven't made any decisions on that at all yet. No.
Got time for a couple more. Pete?
Yeah, I remember the question, so I'm sorry, Tom.
Go ahead.
When you're recruiting kids, how hard is it to really know if they're good leaders, if they're mature? Because obviously if you have kids that don't do this, you don't have to deal with them. So how hard is it to really know them well enough so that you know whether they're capable of something?
Well, you don't, because no matter what, I mean, we recruited at a young age, but no matter what, you don't know them in that way, and you don't know anybody until you get around them on a constant basis. I mean, you just don't. So, but I'm not putting it on that. I mean, you just have to keep working constantly. You deal with it head on. You try to get to know them the best you can. You try to get to know what makes them tick. You have to find those buttons. You have to find out how you get them. There's a lot of things in the world, there's a lot of things at their age that are prying for their attention, for their affection, for their connection, whatever you want to call it. And you got to keep working constantly to get that. You got to keep working constantly to fill voids. It's not like the void, if there's a void, okay? It's not like a void, I don't mean a family void. Sometimes that happens, but we've got some great families. So bottom line is, you've got to keep entrusting, and they've got to make the best choices. It really comes down to that. How do you keep making the best choices when it's really, really easy to make the wrong one? And how do you get to the point where you understand that it not only affects you and your teammates, but your family and your program and people that care about you and people that follow you and all those different things? That's the bottom line. I mean, you want them to get to that point. And it just takes time to get there. Some you know better than others, but at the same time, you coach every one of them to get them to that point where they can be very good decision makers. And you just keep working at it constantly. And I wish there was certainly, it's the old coin, there's no blueprint for it, there's no book for it, there's not. I wish there was. Wish there had been one for the other night. Wish there had been one to get everybody to do the right thing. I mean, there wasn't. So you just keep working it to the best of your ability. And I'm confident in all the things that we're doing to get it to that point, and we'll continue to do it.
Okay, last question.
Got a lot of
Joe?
experience in working at it, a lot of it.
Tom,
Yes,
the
Joe?
practice into play now, where's this team going into these two exhibitions? What will you be focusing in on offensively, defensively, from how the kids have practiced today now transferring?
Well, I think the big thing will be the ball movement. I think ball movement on offense and the spacing and keeping it on the attack with it. I think how we get back in transition, what our communication's like in that. And continue to build into the help defense, them going through real life situations of playing against other people, and which they did some in Montreal. That's been a while. So when we get to that part of it, and defensively, really start to see where we're at rebounding wise right now. Not get caught up. Okay, we don't have these guys and all that. We play a lot of different lineups anyways. Let's just go. Let's just go and play. And start to get that stuff down. I'm glad we've got 2 exhibitions back to back, with this before we get started, because then it starts real quick for us.
Zach, you had one more about the game?
Yeah, I guess just sort of a twofold question about the game. One, is Colin available? And 2,
He is available.
How do you handle, when you've got so many guys that aren't available, how are you going to handle kind of having such a short bench?
Well, we'll just deal with it. I mean, I don't have a magic answer to that too, and we're going to play to get better. We're also going to play to win the game. And I like this team that we're getting ready to play against. They've got some Division I transfers. Maurice Jones was a very good player at USC and a double-figure scorer there. Myers is good. King is good. King can really shoot. Lang and Cable can shoot. They're well coached in the sense that they're going to do a lot of different things. Play hard, so we'll just deal with it the best that we can. I'm excited about it to play. I mean, I know they are too, but at the same time, it's not like any of what we're dealing with Devin or any of those things are going to go away. But I think everybody will be excited to play basketball. And will they be at their best? That's not what's relevant. Okay, will they be at their best that they can be tomorrow? That's what is relevant.
Okay, Coach.
Yeah, and moving forward, games tomorrow night and stuff like that, I'll try to give you Devin updates. I'd like to keep it as centered as possible on basketball and the future of the basketball. Okay, unless there's something out there that comes up that we have to deal with. But any other thing? We good right now? Go ahead, Rich.
Well,
I don't mind.
You are starting the season. How do you feel like this has impacted the team?
Well, we'll see. That's it. There's a lot going on right now. I mean, they're spending a lot of time at the hospital. They're spending a lot of time with their teammate. And when people look at it and say, well, are they that close? Because they're extremely close. And those things happen. Sometimes they don't pull each other out of the. They make mistakes together, right? But it's I mean, you can imagine. I mean, how real it is to be up there seeing your teammate, and I don't think there's one kid that wouldn't look at it, whether they were around, whether they were close with Devin, whatever it is, they can't put themselves in that same situation. And what I see is not only them in that same situation, but it's their families having to see that situation, and they're there for that. But it's been we've been together an awful lot, and since Friday. And that's just part of it. So it's when you say that it's a process, that's where we absolutely have to stay true to the fact that it is a process and that they're going through a lot of different emotions. They're young people. They're very young people, and they don't get a pass on that. I'm not giving them an excuse on that, but they're very young people, and so they're dealing with a lot of emotions and a lot of things that they have never seen. And it is what it is. Mistakes aside, it is what it is.
Quick clarification, did you say that there would be more early morning workouts as a result of this, or any kind of schedule?
I didn't say that. I said if I could go back and do it again. I said if I could go back and do it again the other night, I'd had him in there until midnight. All right, we'd have got some sleep, we'd have come right back in, and then I would have never let him out of my sight. Not sure that's realistic, but that's what I'd have done. So, can I do that every night? I don't know, but it's where we're at. I mean, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.